Welcome to World News by Halandzovskyi. If you value measured, fact-based reporting on international developments, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share your views. Today's topic is a major development in Europe's response to the war in Ukraine. The European Union has reached agreement on a plan to use billions in frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine's defense and reconstruction. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Western nations, especially in Europe, have frozen an extraordinarily large volume of Russian state and private assets. These include central bank reserves, sovereign wealth funds, corporate holdings, and financial instruments that were immobilized under sanctions as a form of economic pressure on Moscow. Until now, much of this wealth has remained in frozen accounts, effectively sidelined but not actively repurposed. The question of what to do with these assets has been a subject of intense political, legal, and ethical debate. Some argued that seizing and redistributing them to Ukraine was unjustified. Others saw the wealth as compensation for war-related destruction and human suffering. In the most recent summit, EU leaders reached a historic agreement. A portion of these frozen assets will be used to back financial instruments that can fund Ukraine's immediate defense needs and long-term reconstruction. This represents not just an economic decision, but a symbolic one. Europe is signaling that punitive measures against Russia can be transformed into tangible support for a nation under attack. Supporters of the plan argue that the funds will be critical for rebuilding infrastructure, stabilizing the Ukrainian economy, supporting displaced citizens, and maintaining political and military resilience. They emphasize that Russia's aggression has forced Europe into unprecedented levels of solidarity and that action is needed now to translate punitive economics into empowerment for Ukraine. However, this decision also raises complicated legal and institutional questions. Central bank assets have traditionally been protected under international law, and repurposing them required new EU frameworks and, in some cases, changes to domestic legislation within member states. Achieving consensus on these legalities was a major diplomatic achievement, one that involved reconciling different views on sovereignty, property rights, and international financial stability. The EU's decision has drawn a mix of praise and concern. In Kiev and among many of Ukraine's allies, the reaction is overwhelmingly positive. Government officials expressed gratitude, saying this provides not just financial backing, but moral validation. Supporters argue that redirecting Russian funds helps rectify, in part, the immense human and material toll caused by the war. European leaders backing the measure framed it as both a practical necessity and a step toward accountability. They emphasized that Russia should not benefit from resources while Ukraine suffers destruction and displacement. By contrast, critics warn that using sovereign assets in this way sets a complicated precedent. Central bank reserves are traditionally inviolable, protected to ensure financial predictability and investor confidence worldwide. Experts caution that such moves, while justified in exceptional circumstances, must be carefully managed so as not to undermine global trust in financial systems. The recalibration required to repurpose sovereign assets could have long-lasting effects on how states hold reserves abroad or participate in international finance. From a geopolitical standpoint, the decision sends a clear message. The European Union is prepared to take unprecedented steps to support Ukraine and challenge Russia's aggression. The move could influence other sanctions regimes and shift how powerful economies use frozen assets in conflicts involving international law violations. For Ukraine, the implications are profound. These funds can provide critical breathing room, underpinning defense procurement, infrastructure rebuilding, and social services at a time when state capacity is under severe stress. They also bolster Ukraine's negotiating position in international diplomacy, signaling that allies are ready to translate punitive measures into practical support. At the same time, Russia condemned the decision, describing it as an illegal expropriation of sovereign resources. Moscow's reaction highlights broader tensions about financial sovereignty, geopolitical rivalry, and the limits of economic pressure as a tool of war. The coming months will reveal how these funds are allocated, overseen, and integrated into Ukraine's long-term recovery plans. What is clear now, however, is that Europe has taken a decisive step, transforming frozen wealth into active assistance for a nation in desperate need. Thank you for watching this analysis on World News by Halandzovskyi. If you found this report informative, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share your perspective. Independent reporting helps us understand how global decisions shape the future. Stay informed and see you in the next update.